we chanted before sitting a number of chants today, and at the end we chant the Great Dharani. We do the Heart Sutra in Korean, Heart Sutra in English, and the Great Dharani. So does anyone know why we chant the Great Dharani? You can raise your hand and unmute and answer if you know. Anyone? Why do we chant the Great Dharani in our quantum school chanting? Sora, you have an answer?
It's for the love and peace and compassion.
Love, peace, and compassion. Mm-hmm.
No?
Actually, that's very good. Yes. Great Dharani is actually the mantra for great love, great compassion. And it's inside the Thousand Hands and Eyes Sutra, Cheonsugyang, which we chant usually when we do a kido, like a chanting, offering chanting. But Kwansen Bosal is also the same root of great love, great compassion. So is Om Mani Padme Hum, which is in Sanskrit, 6-syllable mantra, mostly chanted in the Tibetan tradition. And Heart Sutra, of course, it's the Heart Sutra, which has Gate Gate Para Gate Parasam Gate Bodhisvaha. Okay, usually it's interpreted as gone, gone, go beyond to the other shore, get to the other side, which means go from ignorance to complete awakening. And in that place, in that experience, it's already great love, great compassion. So at the heart of everything that we do as a practice, it's about great love, great compassion. So I just want to share a little bit about Great Dharani. My personal experience with Great Dharani was quite interesting. I didn't know anything about Buddhism. And many, many years ago, I stumbled upon a retreat with a Korean monk in England in a Theravadan temple. And I was the only Korean other than him. Everybody else were, very well-established Zen practitioners from the UK who'd been practicing many years. And I was kind of excited to go to this retreat. And I did it for 5 days. This was before I met the quantum school. And he was a Korean monk who had been going to England for a few years and often leading a retreat or teaching with a Theravadan monk and a Tibetan monk together, a Buddhist summer school. So I was like really excited to meet him and, do this practice. And at the end of the retreat, I was able to get from him, this was more than 20 years ago. And at that time I had a Walkman, which I was very proud of. And so he gave me this cassette of his Dharma talk. And so I was listening to his Dharma talk on the train back to London from this beautiful Theravadan Thai temple called Amaravati. It's outside of London. And as I was listening to his Dharma talk, he gave in English. Halfway through the talk, he would stop, and then he would chant something with the muktak, as Annie did, hitting the wooden instrument. And then he was chanting the Great Dharani. At that time, I didn't know what it was. I didn't understand. It didn't have any meaning. It was a different language. It wasn't Korean. And he was chanting the Great Dharani. And then when he finished, he resumed his Dharma talk. It was sort of like in the middle of his talk, he had this little break. And when I heard the chant, I was mesmerized. I didn't know why. It was like a magical kind of experience. Like, what is this? I have never heard anything like this. The sound, it's a Koreanized phonetic of the Sanskrit. So we chant it 신묘장구대다라니 나무라다나다라야야. But it's a kind of Koreanized sound, simplified sound in the Korean kind of sound structure. The original, you can find actually the Great Dharani, the original Sanskrit version, sounds a little bit different. Anyway, so I would listen to this Great Dharani in the middle of his talk, and I would listen to it again and again and again. And eventually, this poor cassette tape that I had. So for about 6 months, I would listen to this chant. I would kind of fast forward the Dharma talk so I could listen to this Great Dharani he would chant in this cassette over and over and about 100 times a day. So after about 6 months, the tape just kind of went, and the tape, it just got sort of destroyed. And I didn't know what it was, but in the time that I was listening to this Great Dharani, something changed in my life. It was also that retreat, but that sound was very much rooting in my consciousness because I was listening to so much. And then I was just like trying to mimic it and try to copy and make the sound by following it. I was chanting it pretty much, either verbally or quietly in my mind all the time. And after about 6 months, he had gone back to Korea, and I thought, oh, I found a teacher. I want to go visit him. So I went to visit him in Korea 6 months later. And he said, oh, I'm going off on a 3-year retreat. Bye-bye. So I was like, huh? I just thought I found a teacher, but he's going off on a 3-year retreat. And then it kind of helped me realize, I must also find my practice. So somehow I thought, I need to find people like me, somebody who wants to practice. And, I might be Korean, but maybe somewhere else and anywhere around the world, whether it's in Europe or America or wherever it is. If I can't go to some temple in Korea because I'm not a monk or nun, where can I go? So I had this big question. And then what happened was I was going across the city in Seoul, walking by a bookstore, and I see the cover of a book called From Harvard to Hwagesa, which was written by an American monk, Hyung-gak. And I read the book. Then I found the Compass of Zen. And then I went and signed up for a 3-month winter retreat, but it was almost over. It was at the end of January. So I signed up for the winter retreat for the following year, 1 year ahead. And then I went to my first retreat at the Paris Zen Center in the Quantum School. And on that first day, when we sat down for evening practice, there it was after the chants we did today, the homage to 3 jewels, the Heart Sutra, and the Great Dharani. And as soon as they were chanting the Great Dharani, I was like, boom, it's here. Finally, it's here. And I started just repeating it and memorizing it. And I was chanting it all the time. And after many, many years, I realized that the reason we chant, or the reason we can do mantra, the reason we open our mind to these kind of practices is so that what we do actually opens our mind. They are actually tools. So what is mind? So we all think it's inside our head in this vicinity, but actually, is it truly inside your mind or outside your head? Inside your head or outside your head? Where is your mind? Where exactly is it? So if we recite like Great Dharani, then you and the sound become one. That means you are the vibration. 신묘장구대다라니. Vibration is you. This vibration is great love, great compassion vibration. Because when we chant with every syllable, every sound, when we do it 100%, with full attention, there's no I in that moment. There's no me or you or inside or outside or good or bad. You are just the sound. The sound is you. So you are already part of the universe. And the universe is great love and great compassion when we are not afraid. And we're not afraid when we let go of our I, my, me. So that's why we do chant these wonderful practices that have been handed down over centuries in the Dharma path. But actually, Zen Master Seung Sahn was reciting Great Dharani all his life. And he was reciting it apparently even when he was talking. Like, I'm talking to you, but his Great Dharani was constantly activated. So when I talk about vibration, it means our own mental vibration, the energy of our mind, if it's relaxed or agitated or excited or fearful, all the different vibrations, they're moving all the time. But if we can train ourselves to align with the vibration of the sound, like Great Dharani or Kwan Um Zen, or anything that you can do as your practice, then that's like, it's sort of like, when you have a house, you have insulation for deep winter, like right now in Korea, it's very cold and snowed. And I think it's cold in the East Coast in the US. So you have insulation. So this practice we do, this vibration that we connect with, it's sort of like insulation. In some ways, it's like a protection. It's sort of like your immunity, your immune system, strengthening your mental immune system. It's very important because as you can see in the world, there's a lot of unhealthy, broken minds walking around. So Zen Master Seung Sahn often said, broken mind means consciousness has some space. So our mind is functioning on various levels of electric fields we call vibration. But when consciousness is broken, it means there's a gap, like an opening. So our six senses and our ability to then bring those into the seventh consciousness. So these are called sixth consciousnesses. Then the seventh consciousness is when they kind of become categorized into what we call opposites, like or dislike, good or bad. Okay, very quickly categorized. And then the eighth consciousness is what we call the storehouse consciousness, like your hard drive, very deep memory. Okay, then all together, true nature is the name for the entire consciousness, or sometimes even called ninth consciousness. But broken consciousness means there's a gap. So your experience through your six senses that come in cannot very healthily align or regulate and become stored or become used. So if we don't sleep well, we don't get deep sleep or REM sleep, or we have too much emotional trauma or abuse of chemical or environmental, disturbances, or various ways that we think, or perhaps even become born into this world with a variety of different disabilities, both mental or physical, that can affect the way our brain functions, and then thus how our mind actually functions through the interface of the brain. So karma, in general, we all exist through karma, which simply means mind habit. So karma is varied and mysterious. Everybody has all kinds of different karma. It's not important what they are. What's important is how do we address them by keeping our mind as clear as possible, using practices to return to becoming aware of how our mind is functioning. So I encourage everybody, even if you just do a practice where you're not using something like a mantra or chanting, I do encourage you to look into using chanting as a part of your day or a part of your practice in some way, okay? And the reason is because there's something very powerful that happens when we make a sound, a physical sound, because it's not just about practicing for yourself. Oh, my mind is clear. Yeah, that's great. But sometimes by making a sound, this sound also goes out to the universe. And the greatest offering actually is to offer our practice for all beings. So you never know. You might recite a Kwan Um Zen, and it can reach some being that needs that vibration thousands of miles away. So never underestimate our ability to practice and to offer it. And so please offer every moment of your practice, and of course, every moment of our lives for the benefit of all beings.